before I start, I know that you YouTube people have a short span of attention, so I'll get to it. Welcome, my name is Simon. You are watching Walking Talking Gardeners, and in this video we're going to be looking at the five mistakes for you to avoid when growing banana plants. Need a rest off that. No sugar. Now, mistake number one is to avoid buying the wrong plant. Now, if you go down to your local garden centre here in the UK, because this is where I live and these are the plants that I can get, you're probably going to get 4 different plants that you can choose from. You're going to get the Musa basjoo, which is commonly known as your Japanese or hardy banana. You're going to get your Miracle-Gro, which is your golden lotus banana. It's not a bad one, but it's probably not the one you're looking for. You'll get the Enset ventricosum morellii, or straight ventricosum. That's your Abyssinian banana, which is gorgeous looking, but there's an issue with it. And what's that last one? Oh yes, it's the Musa acuminata, which is your Cavendish or dwarf Cavendish banana, which is the actual fruiting banana that produces the fruits that you will buy in the supermarket. And I'm going to discount 3 of those and give you the one that you're probably looking for, starting with this one. Musa acuminata, the dwarf Cavendish banana, is not hardy. You can only really grow it in a pot and grow it in a conservatory to overwinter it, but it's never going to produce any fruit on it. If you want to get some fruit off that plant, well, you can, even though we are in the UK, but you're going to have to give it a protected environment, and that means growing it in a fairly decent greenhouse with additional heating for winter and additional lighting. So unless you want to set up your own banana production company, I probably would just give that one a miss, unless you want to keep it for a year, treat it as an annual plant. Right, Miracle-Gro, I do like that one, and it's really quite hardy. You can grow it here in the mildest parts of the UK, but you will need to give it a wee bit of winter protection. You'll need to give it a good mulch, and you need to put like a rain cover over it. But it doesn't give you that banana effect despite it being a great plant. The Enset ventricosum morellii, I do like that, and I do grow it. In fact, I do have one in the garden as we speak, but it struggles to survive the winter. If it can establish that first year, then generally in subsequent years that'll be absolutely fine. But again, that will definitely need protection. It really needs like a protected south facing wall, very free drain soil. So because of the risk of that dying, probably 50% of that dying each year, save yourself the heartbreak and discard that one. So the one that you are looking for is Musa basjoo. Now the 4th choice was the Musa basjoo, commonly known as the hardy or Japanese banana, and that probably is the one you want. It has the typical banana habit. It's got those lovely massive paddle-shaped foliage, and if you're lucky, this might happen. You might actually get some genuine non-edible bananas on it, and this one is on my banana tree growing in my garden. I want to say banana tree, it's not a tree, it's a herbaceous perennial. Now, mistake number 2 to avoid is, what are you going to do with it when you got it? Are you going to plant it in the ground, or are you going to plant it in a pot? Now, a lot of you will want to grow it in a pot because then you can move it around your patio and put it exactly where you want to do. If you put it in the ground, it's going to have to stay there, stays there forever, unless you kill it off. So what's the right choice, in the pot or in the ground? Well, you've got both here, and I'll show you the advantages and disadvantages of both. Let's look at the pot one first. So we've got a courtyard garden here, and the reason why it's a courtyard garden is because it's got a concrete base under it, which means that you can't plant a banana in the ground. So if you do want a banana, it's got to go in a pot. And here lies the issue. Just look at that. That is stunted, and there's a reason why it's stunted. These are fast-growing plants. They have a high water and high nutrition requirement, and if you've got it in a pot, then all the water and nutrition that it's going to get is going to be what you put in there. So so if you're out for the day on a hot day, that pot will dry out within probably an hour or so. It's an absolute pain in the neck trying to keep enough water and feed in this pot. And there's another issue with it growing in a pot. Because it's above ground, then the root ball is more subject to the changes in air temperature. Now, ground temperatures are usually quite stable throughout the year. Of course, they're going to go up and they're going to go down, but they're not going to be, you know, if you get like a really sharp frost, say about -8, -10 degrees, like an air frost in the winter, the ground isn't going to drop down to -10 degrees, is it? It's going to, you know, the surface might start to freeze off unless you put a mulch on it that'll stop that, and you're still going to get like 3, 4, 5 degrees Celsius as a temperature in the roots. So the roots can still, you know, still be active to a certain extent, and the deeper they go down and the more the higher temperature that soil gets to. Now in a pot they don't get that advantage, so if it drops really cold, that root ball is going to get very cold. So overwintering is more difficult, watering is more difficult, feeding is more difficult. The only advantage to this is that if you've got a hard standing area, you can still grow them, but you've got to get a really big pot because it just isn't going to perform very well. I mean, look how tall it is. I mean, from the top of the soil in the pot to sort of up here, it's only about 4 foot tall. But in the ground, you can expect these to attain a height of up to 3.5 meters. But if 3.5 meters is a ridiculous height for where you want to plant it, then growing it in a pot will restrict its height and maybe exactly the thing that you want it to do. Another benefit to growing your banana directly into the ground is that the roots will be far better protected during periods of freezing weather. Hold on, I just want to interrupt this broadcast with some important news. If you are finding this video interesting, or at the very least amusing, then consider pressing the like button. That way YouTube can help other people looking for this information to find this video. And if you want to support this video further, you can just by subscribing. It's absolutely free. If you want to find out whenever you publish a new video, then click on that notification bell. Anyway, I'll let old boil butt continue talking. Right, now mistake number 3 is to not plant it in the right position, and it does have certain requirements if you want it to get big, have it look impressive and produce those gorgeous banana fruits. So first of all, try and grow it in a sheltered position. You put it anywhere where it's going to be affected by strong winds, and those leaves will be absolutely ruined. They'll just flake apart. They will still function as leaves, but they do look an absolute mess when all the leaves are ripped apart. They look far better, in my opinion, when those paddle-shaped leaves are still intact. So if you can, shelter position. Secondly, full sun all day, every day. You know, put it in the shade, stunted growth. Not much going to happen. You know, there's a reason why these leaves are big. They are just massive solar panels. So the more light they can get, the more sugars and starches they can produce, the bigger that plant will be. Right. Thirdly, you want it in a free draining soil, because you don't want your plant to be waterlogged over the winter, because if you're in the UK, we do get long, wet winters. And the third thing is fertilizer. They have a massive nutrition requirement. So when you've bought your plant and you're going to put it into the ground, then prepare the ground first. Buy yourself a couple of big bags of blended, sterilised farm manure. Dig all that in. So you mix it up well with the soil. Don't just put your plant on it neat, because that would just damage the root system. So mix it up well, give it plenty of fertilizer, and get those things right. And there's every chance that you'll get a plant big enough that it'll produce its own fruit in your garden. Now, I do appreciate that the RHS doesn't even list it as a species that produces fruit in the UK, but believe me, here on the south coast, almost every live specimen of Musa basjoo's got blooms and fruit on it, so they need to update their records. Now, mistake number 4 to avoid is to not do your ongoing summer maintenance. Here in the UK, when we do get hot weather, it tends to be hot and dry. So over extended periods of drought, you need to make sure that your banana plant gets watered. Now, the problem is, if it is hot, those leaves will heat up, and what they do is they mitigate the heating up by regulating their temperatures by releasing water through the stomatal pores on the underside of the leaf. There are a few on the top side of the leaf. These big things, you know, so if there isn't enough water in the ground, the plant starts to dry up, it can't cool itself down, and the leaves start to go brown as they run out of moisture. within the plant and start to dry off, and it tends to hold back its growth. It tends to put it into dormancy, and it doesn't look very good either. So during periods of drought over the summer, make sure it gets plenty of water, because if you're not going to do it, no one is just going to do it, and the plant can't do it because it can only use the available water around its root system. The other thing is fertilizer. Now, we mentioned that before in the last mistake, but again, these plants, they're big growers, they're fast growers, they produce these big root systems. So ongoing feeding, you know, make sure you get a water soluble fertilizer such as Miracle-Gro, which is my favorite fertilizer, and I don't get paid for that. There are other fertilizers available. You can use what you want. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you the what I do. And more to that, the growing period, you'll be looking at feeding fortnightly. So if you get the watering right, the position right, the feeding right, then give it a few years, your plant will be big enough to produce bananas. Now, mistake number 5 is all about overwintering. Now, you probably heard at the beginning of this video that the one of the common names of the Musa basjoo is the hardy banana, because it is indeed hardy to a point. It's called root hardy. That's because the roots will survive temperatures down to between -12 and -14 degrees Celsius. However, the trunks, the pseudo-stems, because that's what they're really called, they are not as hardy as the roots. No, they'll go down to at most about -5 degrees Celsius. So I would recommend protecting the stems, because if those stems get cut back, and it's not the end of the world because it will produce new stems in the spring, but if they do get cut back over the winter, then you are not going to get any flowers or fruit off your hardy banana. So to maintain the stems, you got to do this. You've got to remove all of the foliage at the end of the autumn, because if you leave those leaves on, they'll get severely damaged in the first frost. They'll start to rot. Then you get bacterial and fungal infections can get into the leaves, and then possibly into the pseudo-stems and down to the roots. So in order to prevent infections getting into the plant that way, you remove all of the foliage. You can wrap the stems in horticultural fleece, just, you know, several layers of fleece on the stems. Mulch the root system just to be on the safe side, because you never know with the global warming and climate change if you get a really bad winter. So a good 2 to 3 inches of bark chips is what I would recommend. And I also like to put on a rain canopy, you know, and you have that raised. You don't have it sat on the pseudo stems. You have it raised above it, so there's a gap between the top of the canopy and those pseudo stems, so you have like an air bubble underneath it. Also acts as a rain cover, so it protects the soil below from getting too waterlogged over our lovely English wet winters. So there you have it. Those are my 5 mistakes to avoid when growing bananas here in the UK. And if you've got any great tips that you'd like to add, you're more than welcome to do so. Just put those in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. Anyway, thanks for watching, but before I go, I've got one last message. Right now, just before you go, if you want to see more content, more behind the scenes stuff, and images that I've taken of some weird freaky plants over the years, then you're in luck, because we've created an Instagram page. So you can find the link in our description. You can find the link on our main page, and if I'm clever enough, I might be able to get a link somewhere up there. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you want to see more YouTube stuff, then check out this video here. That's quite a good one. And if it doesn't float your boat, then another one right there. And enjoy these while I've still got the strength, imagination and aptitude to make them. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.